Hello, my fellow donuts, and welcome back to 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. Okay, so we left the operating room where we pretty much solved the puzzle with two mannequins. And, well, let's just find out what will happen next. The hallway took them around several corners and past several doors, but they were all locked. Until at last, the final door was hidden in a corner of the hall. Junpei grabbed the handle. As he made to push it open, and a voice stopped him. The voice came from behind him and belonged to neither Seven nor Clover. Junpei! Oh, so we met again. He spun around. He saw someone running toward him from the other end of the hallway. There were three people coming toward Junpei and his companions: Santa, Lettuce, and June. They pulled up short in front of Junpei, breathing hard. Whoa, what the hell is this? What are you doing here? What? But we didn't. Before he could finish, Clover spoke. Hey guys, can you come take a look at this? She was standing near the end of the small hallway that branched off to the right. The rest of them ran over to her, curious to what she'd found. There was something on the wall at the end of the hallway. Looks like a map. It said CDAC in the upper left corner. It was, they assumed, a map to the floor they were on. Door 7 and Door 8, the map confirmed that what they already knew. Both doors eventually led to the hallway where they had found themselves. In fact, yeah, isn't that what I said? We aren't gonna be split up permanently till we find door 9. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we won't be able to open door 9. Yeah, makes sense. That's how the Nonary game works. Junpei looked at the map of the ship's interior again. As he looked more closely, his surprise and excitement gave way to weariness. One by one the others saw what he'd seen. They moved as one for the door. He pulled the map of the ship's interior off of the wall, put it in his pocket, and followed the others. The 6 of them stood in front of the door, arrayed in a semicircle. Santa stepped forward. He took hold of the door and spoke without looking back at the door. At other 5, Ready? I'm gonna open it. Slowly all 5 nodded their silent assent. With a deep breath, Santa threw open the door. They poured through the doorway and into the room. Even without looking around, each one of them knew where they were. They were just where the map had said they would be. Makes sense. The same room they'd been in not so very long ago. Huh? The tremendous central hospital room with empty beds from wall to wall. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I just didn't pay attention to the map. They just showed us a few times right now. I see. I believe I understand what you're saying. The 6 of you split into 2 teams and... So wait! Ace? Is he in his senses now? And went through doors 7 and 8. You solved the puzzles in the operating room and the laboratory, and then met one another in a hallway after opening your respective locked doors. He looked like anyone might after only just waking up, but it seemed that his brain was working as well as ever. He had managed to grasp, summarize, and understand each team's report. At any rate, I feel a bit silly for my little show of altruism. I'm sure you'll be back for me. I did hope you would come back, but I confess I didn't think you'd be back so soon. Ace shook his head with a okay, I have no idea how you pronounce this. Smile. Well, we saw each other again and we ain't dead, so I say that's good enough. Seven smiled. Anyway, I say we get out of this creepy old place. How? We found the key we need. Huh? You guys? I mean, we guys? I guess this guy was in my party, so we found it? I don't remember, it's been a few days since we played. Okay, Jupiter key. I just thought that we opened that door to leave that operating room, but maybe it opens something else too? Ain't that what I just said? I'm talking about the Jupiter key. We found it in the operating room. Right, Jumpy? Yeah. Oh, the solar system keys. Actually, you found one in the laboratory too. Sun. Oh, I mean Earth. Sun is with the dot in the center, I think. Let us dig out the steel worm key with an Earth symbol on it. I might lose it. It's probably better if you hold on to it. That way it won't be my fault if it gets lost. Smart girl. And with that, she pressed it into Junpei's hand. He felt slightly less than honored. As a group, they now had 3 keys that had not been used. The Jupiter key, which had been found in the operating room. The Saturn key card, which had been found in the kitchen. The Earth key, which Lotus had just handed to Junpei. Believe they found it in the laboratory. Junpei tucked the new keys into his pocket. Jun spoke up. The Jupiter key is supposed to be for the door at the end of the long straight hallway, right? Yeah. If the map's right, then it connects to the central staircase. Then next to the stairs? Wait. They were the first words anyone had heard out of Clover in quite some time. Her face suggested they weren't going to be very happy words. What about door 3? Oh, look. You saw the map, right? It's the same as 7 and 8. It just led us back to the big hospital room. There's no point to seeing what's on the other side of the door. There is a point. At least there is for me. There were tears in her eyes, but she glared at 7 as hard as she could just the same, no lie. She looked very much like a frightened puppy. There wasn't a man alive who could have resisted those eyes. 7 looked everywhere in the room except Clover, even though he's so big and is supposed to be cool, and muttered and coughed apologies under his breath. Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. Snake might be on the other side of the door 3. Clover nodded once. The next person to speak with Ace. Very well. How could he be there? I mean, if he even tried to go there, he would probably be dead. I think. Really, you decide to come to me now, again. Go. Just sit here, okay? I'll be coming with you then. I've had a nice long rest. I think it's time I was up and about again. So, 7, you'll help me, won't you? Huh? Me? Jumpy did the calculations quickly in his head. 4 plus 1 plus 7 equals, well, 3 pretty much. It looked like 7 was doing them too. At last he gave up. Damn, well, I guess that's how it's gotta be. So I'm going with you, huh? Yes, you are. Alright, let's get moving. And so it was decided that Clover, Ace, and 7 would discover what lay beyond the door 3. Okay, we are heading out. Be careful. Whoa, didn't think I'd be hearing that from you, Lotus. Don't let it go to your head. I'd be in trouble if the 3 of you bought it. The rest of us can't open the 9 door. The truth comes out. 7 noted as if this answer made much more sense and pulled the lever on the rat. It actually made more sense. I mean, come on, she's selfish. Okay, let's go. The door opened and Ace, Clover, and 7 jumped through it. After exactly 9 seconds, the door closed noisily. Alright, we should get moving too, huh? Get moving? Where are we going? Everyone except Lotus seemed rather confused. Well, it would be a waste of time to just sit around, wouldn't it? Then maybe we should have discussed it before they just went through that door. Let me explain. I get it. We are gonna see if we can get anywhere interesting with the Jupiter key. Yes, if you're lucky, we might find Snake. They were at the end of the hallway lined by individual hospital rooms. The Jupiter symbol was engraved on the keyhole. Alright, Jumpy, open it, if you please. Yeah, on it. Jumpy pulled the Jupiter key out of his pocket and slid it into the keyhole. He twisted with a nice sharp click. He felt the door unlock. Alright, ready guys? Jumpy companions nodded. He nodded back, then slowly and quietly opened the door. Weren't they here before? Inside was exactly what he expected to see from the map of the ship's interior. They were in a tremendous hall, almost like a ballroom, with a massive central staircase. Great, back to the beginning. You sure this is a good idea? What do you mean? Well, we already searched every inch of this room, didn't we? I'm asking if there's any reason we came back here. I have no idea. It's again not mentioned anywhere, so I guess. But there must be a reason. He gave us this key. I mean, we went through the whole rooms just to get that key. There must be some kind of reason. Probably. Man, sometimes I can't tell if you're smart or just lucky. Huh? This. Jumpy pulled 2 things out of his pockets. Oh, right, we have 2 more keys. Santa cocked his head to one side like an inquisitive bird and looked at them. After several long moments during which it became apparent that Santa had no idea what the cards meant, June took pity on him. Don't you remember, Santa? On C deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? And next to the elevator, there was a card reader with a Saturn symbol on it. And on A deck, no, I can't. Can you, please? Okay. On the door to the left, there was a keyhole with an earth symbol on it, I think. So the two keys that Jumpy has should let us use the elevator and the door on A deck, huh? Yes, that's right. June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa. Alright, I got it. Let's get started then. What do you say we split into two teams? Lotus and I will search the Earth one, so you two can search Saturn, alright? Sounds good. Jumpy handed the Earth key to Santa. They decided that their initial search should be brief, only 10 minutes. They'd meet back near the staircase once they were done. Junpei and June headed to the elevators. Sure enough, there was a card reader bolted on the wall next to the left elevator. He lined up the Saturn key card and swiped it through the reader. A light on the upper left corner blinked to life. Great, looks like it's working now. Alright, now how do I call the elevator? There was a single button on the right of the elevator door. Guess press it. On the button was the upside-down triangle, the universal symbol of down. There didn't appear to be an up button. Jumpy pushed it. He didn't have much of a choice. This elevator seems too creepy. It opened. Okay. Look, Jumpy. June's voice was excited, but Jumpy could hear a tinge of anxiety. Sweet, it opened. Let's get going. He grinned at June and stepped toward the open door. As he was about to set foot in it, he felt a hand on his arm. Wait. What? I'm not really... I just... Oh gosh. Jumpy was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? June was probably afraid of being locked up alone with a boy. They could only go down. She was afraid because the only elevator button pointed down. Because we are pretty much supposed to go up, right? To get out of the ship, you should be going higher, not lower. That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Jumpy realized he hadn't seen elevators on the A or B decks near the central staircase. All of which meant that the elevator could only convey them to the lower decks. And the floor below, the one they were on, D deck, should be completely submerged. That meant... Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right? Well, yes, I guess it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button. There was a motor noise, like it was moving, and then it opened. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So take a look inside. Jumpy jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator. It's not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry. Oh, you're right, they are. She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed. Well, let's test it. Test it? Yeah, watch this. Jumpy put one foot in the elevator and bent around the corner of the door until he could see the floor buttons. There were only two, E and C. He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. few moments later, they heard the sound of the elevator door grinding open several floors below. Jumpy nodded to June and pressed the elevator button again. A few moments later, the elevator returned. Okay. Come on! Can you... Oh, I got money. At least something good happened today. The door slid open, and just as Jumpy had expected, there was no water to be found. See? Jumpy couldn't resist puffing out his chest just a little bit. June, however, still looked confused. What does that mean? How can the E deck be safe if the D deck is full of water? Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft and the D deck must be watertight and separated from whatever the ship's been punctured. Here, let me show you. He pulled out his notebook and pen and sketched out a rough illustration. You guys have only 10 minutes, you know about that? Just saying. I see. So, is that why the ship hasn't sunk? The shape of the inside keeps it from all the filling with water? Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Jumpy continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket. So I'm gonna go down and check it out. Stay here, alright? But... Come on, just do it, alright? He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze, then hopped onto the elevator. He pushed the E button and the door began to close. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision, when suddenly... I'm coming with you. Huh? At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways, just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors. Jumpy jammed his finger against the open button, but it was too late. The door had shut. He and June were in the elevator, and it was headed down to E deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't even have time to think about what awaited him on the E deck. The elevator stopped and the door slid open. They stepped off. Onto the floor outside the elevator, nothing seemed especially unusual. No fish going about their fishy business, or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. That pun wasn't fun. There was, however, a blowfish, or at least something that looked very much like one. June's cheeks were puffed out, and her mouth a tiny, intense frown. Oh, knock it off. It's just like I thought, this part hasn't flooded. Come on, just look around. There's no water here. June looked around nervously, then exhaled. She wasn't breathing? Breathing? You're right. It's not flooded at all. See? There's a whole lot of water. Yeah, right on top of us. What's going to happen if the ceiling breaks? Well, we probably are gonna be dead? Jumpy thought about that for a moment. We'd probably die. Oh no. Don't be so casual about something like that. At any rate, we should probably go back as soon as we can once we are done looking around down here. Lotus and Sada might already be back. Okay, good idea. Jumpy glanced around the room they'd found themselves in. The first thing he noticed was a set of thick iron bars. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one. Well, we can't go over there. Right. Then perhaps, in the corner of the room that housed The elevators. Jumpy found an opening. He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner. A long straight hallway stretched out in front of him. That door at the end of the hallway, there's something written on it. Yeah, let's go have a look. I can already tell you it's number 6. Jumpy and June set off down the hallway at a brisk clip, somewhere between a run and jog. Yeah, I kind of imagined that. I saw some funny looking people kind of joking like that. Jogging. This looks, funny. Before long, they found themselves in front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint. 6. I knew it. This is a numbered door. And indeed, there was a red bolted to the wall right next to the door. Of course, with only 2 people, there wasn't much they could do with it. All right, let's head back. Yes. Jumpy and June turned and headed back to C deck. On their way back, Jumpy noticed a map on the wall. Only on their way back, as it turned out, it was a burned map of ship's interior for E deck. Huh, so you guys found door 1. They'd met back up with Santa and Lettuce, who had explained what they'd found. Apparently there was another numbered door on A deck, just like the one on E deck, beyond the door that the Earth key opened. According to Santa and Lotus, there was a 1 on the door. All told, they had discovered 2 new doors, the 6 and 1. It is interesting that E deck wasn't flooded. Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in thought. Well, we didn't really know if all of E deck was safe. We only checked the area around the elevator. Even so, it's still very interesting. You said the 6th door was there, right? Yes. Then that means Zero planned all this out, even the sinking. That would have meant some pretty serious remodeling for the ship's interior. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Yeah, I wonder how long it took. Can't even imagine how much it must have cost. It would have been a ton, that's for sure. Well, that does go along with what Ace was saying. The most reasonable explanation would be that this was done by some organization with access to a whole lot of cash. Yes, it does make sense. That thought made them all go quiet for a moment. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off into a distance at nothing. I don't think it's a very good idea to stay here. June looked up at Jumpy with large, pleading eyes. Yeah, you're right. Ace and his team might be back already. Well, June, Jumpy, and I should be able to open door 1. Huh? You guys leaving me behind? Just kidding. Alright, let's go. Lotus's words were all the impetus they needed. Back to the large hospital room they went. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room. Hey, where the hell did you guys go? It was Seven. Ace was right behind him and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back. It looked as though there was something strange about them. Seven had the look of a man who seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. Did they see his probably body? For a long moment, they simply stood there looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at Seven. What happened? What the hell kind of question is that? Seven was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained. Snake is. Seven couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by. Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke. Snake is dead. He died just as Ninth Man did. How could it have happened? I don't understand. He was the one who was the first to find out this rule. How could he die this way? Did someone push him into the door? But who could have done that? It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beating on his forehead and neck. June, Sand, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All three were frozen in place, their faces white. Oh my god. That's not true, is it? Yeah, they're just kidding about it, of course. We should make sure. Yeah, right, we should. They nodded to one another and headed for number 3 door. Wait, not that way. They stopped short and turned to look at Seven. He was pointing at a door with no number. It's probably where they got out from. I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way. Where's he? The shower room on the left side of the hallway. Put a broom in there too to keep the door open. We can get in without going through the number door, right? Yeah, that's right. Their new destination cleared, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall. It hadn't been open when they'd been through before. But now, just as Seven had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open. They looked at it for a moment, then stepped aside. Did they really have to just watch? Look at him? I mean, Clover couldn't be kidding about that stuff. It smells horrible. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut. Yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke. It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. Okay, with everything else, I understand, but fish? It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in the stomach where it belonged. There's some kind of letters. They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere, a few arms of the splatter reaching toward them as they walked in through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind the divider. "June, you should stay here. But please, just do me a favor, okay? Alright?" He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider. It felt like it took an entire eternity for him to get there. Sand and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Jumpy put his hands on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. Wow, there's a lot of blood. Wait, so he died just the way Ninth Man did? I mean, like, the bomb just went off? But why did he go through the number door? He knew that there are supposed to be at least 3 people in the room. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh turned from the body, sat in the blood like tiny islands of a great Red Sea. A vast wrecked hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained in his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Wait, how about his face? Is it still there? Because if it's not, how can you tell if it's actually Snake? Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellowish fat had... Oh, this is just too realistic. I can't. Had left trails like tiny slugs, and as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it. Just imagining it. Just like Ace said. Santa's voice was strained. Jumpy suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own. Just like the Ninth Man, the detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut. It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful. His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna. His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces. Half of his head had simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. Really? That's kind of comparison. His clothes too were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the grey slacks. They were all familiar to Jumpy. No mistake about that. It's Snake. You can tell that only because of the clothing. Even though he actually mentioned only half of his face going down or something. Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Jumpy heard it catch in her throat. The squeal of tortured metal made Jumpy's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, He never got used to it. Every time, it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than even a human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly on her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Gympie felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Snake was probably murdered. Chances are he was killed the same way the ninth man was. Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Gympie and Seven: Ace, Santa, June, and Lattice. Seven looked at each one of them in turn and continued. It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killer got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they showed him into it alone and waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room looking for Dad. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Poor guy. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonators only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the Dad. So it's number the 3. He has number 7. Okay. 13? No. It must be 12 to make it 3, right? So 12 minus 7, 5. Who could have been it? I mean, oh, why 7? Snake was number 2. So it must be 10, right? Or not? Right. It must be 10 or 1. It can't be 1 because, well, you know. There must be 3 people. Well, the door will be able... No, I don't know. If it's 10, okay. I just have to think about it. If it's 10, who might it be? 7 plus 3. Who is 3? I have to be honest, I have no idea who is 3. Do I have information about people? And when 81 seconds after he was showed in, that happened. I see. So that's what you meant by killer's hun? Huh? I mean, not hun. You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake. Aha! It wouldn't open for a snake and a single killer. Exactly. That means we are looking at multiple perps here. Who could have done this? He couldn't see. I mean, how... What kind of person you must be to do this? Gympie crossed his arms and grunted. Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed? When we all split up and to look for the parts of the Reds, I think. Right after that was when we noticed he was gone. Then that means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts. Yeah, that means anybody could be a killer. Wait a minute. What are you talking about? It's clear what he's talking about. How can you say one of us is a killer so casually? Two, actually. Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least two of us are murderers. Why don't you calm down a bit, Seven? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know? What Zero wants? Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory. When you are saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other, yes? I think I read it wrong. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations. Then does that mean that the person who killed Snake, yes, almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't this seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well? Jumpy hadn't really considered that. If Zero had killed Snake, then Zero was on the ship with them. I'm not sure. Hey, I'm just wondering about one thing. And what's that? How can you be so sure that Zero's on the ship? Really, Jumpy? I confess I'm a little disappointed. Usually you're rather sharp. Isn't it obvious? The ship. Huh? Zero said this ship several times when he addressed us. So what? I am Zero, the captain of this ship. The purpose of the game is simple: leave this ship alone. So what? As you have no doubt surmised, this ship has begun to sink. He could have operated all these things from destination, you know. It's called technology. If he weren't here, he wouldn't say this ship, would he? Why do you think so? No. To me it sounds pretty natural still. He'd be saying something like that ship or that ship. No. Maybe he has different ships and that's why he says this ship. Who knows? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Ace's explanation made perfect sense. Jumpy felt a little foolish that he didn't see it himself. Fuck you. I think I'm still right. Still, he was left with a question, and it was one of no small importance. If Zero's on the ship, where is he? Behind number 9 door? Suddenly everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Jumpy could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again he heard the ghostly moaning noise. The moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Chloe. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone. I think Zero is one of us. If he is one of us, how could he have talked to us? If you think if you guys are think he's here with us, and he was speaking with us like in real time through the speakers, saying this ship and stuff. So how could he have speaking with how could he was speaking whatever with us if we were all standing there? Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Jumpy? Sad? That's possible. I mean, everything is possible. Huh? Like Clover said, Zero might be one of us. What are you saying, Jumpy? Didn't you hear what Ace said? I'm wrong again? Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for no reason. No reason? They've got a great reason. And what's that? The bracelets. He held out his left hand. Arm. Why are the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? You're all thinking Zero's hiding somewhere, watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise and a lot easier, but if that's the case, then why is the bomb sent off by the detonator in the bracelet? Huh, you got a point. Oh, I'm right this time. I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to the nonary game. All of the puzzles here run all by themselves. In other words, Zero doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why is that? Why would Zero bother to do something like that? Jumpy let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. So let's say you and Clover are right. Zero is one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us, or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right? Yep. 7. When we were talking earlier, you said any one of us could be Snake's killer, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright then, I've got a question for you, Ace. You said something like Zero must be the one who killed Snake, right? Yeah, something like that. Can't think of any other explanation. So what do we get if we combine those? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake equals Zero equals one of us. 7 and Ace's theories aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. At least they do if Zero is one of us. No one spoke. Their faces were grim, but Jumpy wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally Lotus spoke up. What were his motives? His motives? Yes. Isn't that pretty important? Why would Zero want to hide one of us? Oh, well that's because, he hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself. He had no idea. It's not a courtroom, I don't have to, whatever answer to that. I don't know. Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Jumpy. In other words, you had only circumstantial evidence. Again, it's not a court. I don't really think that's enough to go on, Jumpy was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else, to look at. Just when he felt he could bear it no longer. No. Time's moving. He heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock of the central staircase. 3 in the morning. That means we have 3 hours left. Then we need to move. Now. 7 Clover Jumpy. I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important we trust one another, don't you? Well, I don't know. He swallowed the words he wanted to say inside. 7 and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away. We must go. We have very little time left. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. It sat bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen between 2 elevators. The Mercury card reader. Jumpy stood in front of it with the Mercury key card. 7 had given him the card. I found it when we were checking out the shower room. At least that's what he'd said. Jumpy slid the card through the reader. The light on the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise. Now they were ready. Jumpy and June had been chosen as the investigators, the reasoning being that they had been to EDAG before and no one else had. As before, Jumpy sent the elevator ahead to make sure the floor they were heading to wasn't flooded. As before, the elevator returned as dry as when it had left. Once it had been checked for water, Jumpy and June stepped into the elevator. Can you guys do it faster? There were only 2 floor buttons they could push. The C and buttons. Bottom, I mean. C and bottom. The rest were destroyed or did nothing when pushed. Down we go, I guess. Sometime later, Jumpy and June stepped off the elevator onto the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw that the hallway to their right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end, but no regular dead end. This is a number door. This is the 8th one we have found. There were 2 number doors on the B deck near the central staircase. They were doors 4 and 5. There were 3 more numbered doors in the large hospital room, doors 3, 7, and 8. Jumpy and June had found another door on E deck, and Lotus and Santa found a 7th on A deck. There was a 6 on the door on E deck, and 1 on the door on A deck. 4, 5, 3, 7, 8, 6, 1, and now door 2 stood in front of Jumpy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, only 9 is left? There was only one thing it meant. Do you think the next door we find? Yeah, I think so. The next one's gonna be door 9. Despite himself, Jumpy felt excited. There was something about that excitement that frightened him as well. He did his best to put it from his mind and headed back to the C deck with June. Alright, let's open these up. The pieces of paper they'd folded up lay on the ground next to Jumpy's legs. There were 7 of them, all told. They were written on paper pulled from Jumpy's notebook, and each one bore a code name and door. Why had they decided to vote that way? They decided it wasn't fair to simply ask everyone at once. that would allow people to force others to go through certain doors. Well, that wasn't the only reason. Junpei had proposed the voting system, and he had a plan. It wasn't a plan he wanted anyone catching wind of, however, so he did his best to act calm as he began to open and read the pieces of paper. The first one read, Ace requests door 1. Yes, I do. Would you like me to explain why? No, we don't have time for that, sorry. Let's keep going. Next is Santa, he wants door 6. Yeah, that's what I wrote. Clover wants 1, Lotus 2, 7, 2. Eh? Wait a minute. There's no way I'm going anywhere with Elephant Man. No, there'd be no point for the voting if we let people change their choices because of stuff like that. But just give it up, Lotus. It's not like I wanna hang out with some exhibitionist grandma. Wow. How old is she? She looks young. I'm not that thing. I'm wearing clothes. Very little though. Barely. So, last I checked, that's not a crime. Maybe, but what about common decency? Nobody wants to have to look at a chick who looks like a half-naked raisin. Well, don't look then. I mean, what's your problem? It's not like your eyes are magically like drawn to her naked body pieces when she passes by. If that's your problem, well, that's your problem, you know. I'm going to kill you. Are they fighting? Wow. Lotus's hair flared out like the mane of an angry lion, and she roared with a voice that shook the walls. With some difficulty, Ace managed to restrain her. Junpei, read the rest. Oh, right. Jun wants door 6. Yes, I don't really have a reason. I just felt like it. All of the papers, save Junpei's, had been read. He did some quick calculations in his head. People who requested door 1, Ace plus Clover. This was the door on A deck near the central staircase. People who requested door 2, 7 plus Lotus. This was the door on the bottom. It could be reached by taking the elevator. People who requested door 6, E deck. It took him less than a second to run the numbers. He opened the 7th piece of paper and spoke. Okay, the last one is mine. I want to go through... And that's where you decide. And your decision is important for the true ending. I believe the door 1 is the one on that on the upper floor. And I guess it's logical that we want exactly the first door. So I guess yeah, let's check it. Yeah. Hey, wait a minute there. You cheating? Cheating? I'm asking if you changed your number after you heard what doors you wanted. We wanted. How could I do that? I wrote it down in the paper earlier. Let me see that. As they did, Junpei quickly slipped the piece of paper he'd been hiding into his pocket. Although he'd never know it now, Santa had been justified in his suspicions. Junpei had switched papers. He had prepared 3 pieces of paper for doors 1, 2, and 6, and put the paper with door 6 on it into the pot. He put a small mark on it so that he would know which one was his. He put the paper that said door 1 in his left hand and the paper that read door 2 in his right. When the drawing began, he saw to it that he drew last. The rest was easy. If he wanted to go into door 1, he'd use his left hand and his right hand if he wanted door 2. Of course, if he wanted door 6, that would be simple. All he needed to do was switch nothing and say 6 had been what he wanted all along. Well, what does it say? He fought the urge to smirk. You got lucky. Santa snorted and tossed the paper aside, frustrated. Very well, we have decided who will go through door 1. It will be Clover, Jumpy, and myself. Our only problem is the 2 remaining teams. June and I won door 6. Lotus and I won door 2. It's not good. We can't open either of those doors with only 2 people. Fine. 7 will go through door 6. Sure thing. I didn't really want to go through door 2 anyway. Besides, if we've got a younger girl with us, it'll lower the average age. Right, June? Is it really that important to you? Well, June was at a loss for words. Lotus was not. That pig. You just wait and see. Her eyes were the eyes of the woman prepared to kill. A shiver ran down Jumpy's spine. Is she going to kill him? Like leave him behind the door or something, I don't know. Even after they separated at the staircase, Lotus was still muttering angrily to herself. Circumstances dictated that Jumpy and June would have to part ways again, but this time didn't sting quite so much. After all, he knew he would see her again. Till we find that 9 door, 0 ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we can't open the door 9. That's how the nonary game works. That pretty much we know, right? Jumpy, Ace, and Clover headed toward A deck. They took out the earth key and opened the door to the left. It opened and they walked through. It was just as Santa and Lotus had said. At the end of the hallway sat a door with a large red 1 upon it, a numbered door. To the left of it, bolted to the wall, was red. Ace went first and waved his wrist over the scanner panel. Jumpy? Clover. She leaned over the scanner panel. The third asterisk clicked to life, shining brightly. Ace took hold of the lever. He took a deep breath and turned to Jumpy and Clover. Are you ready? Shall I pull it? Yeah, anytime. Clover said nothing. She nodded, little more than a lethargic switch of the hat. Very well then, let's go. 3, 2, 1. The door opened. They stumbled into the room. Frantically, Jumpy scanned the room. His eyes stopped. This room is really little compared to, any other things we saw behind numbered doors. His eyes stopped on the device that would determine whether they lived or died. There it is, over there. Next to the door they'd come through was the dead. As one, they ran to it. They put their hands over it as if they were fighting for it. Probably would have. It stopped. Yes, it did. Jumpy could feel his heart pounding again against the inside of his ribs. Ace and Clover were breathing hard and fast. It was the third time they'd been through the process, but they had yet to grow accustomed to it. Not that Jumpy wanted to. He planned to finish the game before he got a chance to let imminent death become commonplace. Jumpy looked around again, this time more slowly. There was another door different from the one they'd entered through. He took hold of the knob and easily, gently pulled it open. So this is the wheelhouse? He closed the door again and turned to Ace and Clover. He fixed each in turn with a meaningful stare. Okay, then spoke. Ace, you investigate the wheelhouse next door. Oh, very well. Clover, you're in charge of this room. Say something. Okay, I will. Alright then, let's get started. Cool. Okay. I actually was planning to do the escape thing too today, but unfortunately, guys, I don't feel too good. I actually really want to take a rest, so yeah. We are going to stop here and continue the next part. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, everyone, and yeah, we'll see you in the next part. Bye.